So honey,
Yeah.
I love the idea of putting flowers in this metal tote, the
Yes.
container.
Yes.
And we have some zinnia seeds,
Uh-huh.
and I want it to be full of zinnias.
That would be pretty.
But I planted some other seeds in another pot and they never grew.
Yeah.
So is there a proper way to plant seeds so they grow instead of buying the whole plant at the nursery?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I tend to probably not follow proper methods, but I do have a fairly high success rate in growing things from seeds. So I'll just tell you how I do it and hope that that ends up being proper. In this case, I'm just going through and getting some of the rocks and weeds that have grown up in this old cattle trough or cattle stock tank. And the soil is pretty loose and pretty good. But like I said, I was pulling some of the rocks out and some of the weeds, just preparing that. I am going to put a little bit of raised bed soil. This is organic soil with some of the organic fertilizers in it already. I don't have a whole lot, so I'm not going to fill the bed up. But just a little bit of this to add just a little fertility. We'll save some for the other tank. But I'm just going to spread that around the top.
I have never had any luck growing anything from seeds, so I don't know if there's a certain method to how deep you lay them, the spacing apart of them.
Well, I'm sure that there is a proper way to plant zinnias, but whenever I've done zinnias in the past, oops, really, I've just sprinkled them like this. And these were zinnias that we collected from our own farm, so it's not just the seed, it's like the whole little, you know, the papery part as well. I don't know what you call it. So I kind of spread them out. And then lightly just kind of brush the surface to cover them up. And that's pretty much my method for planting zinnias.
Now, do I need to come out and water them every day?
It would be a good idea to use a watering can to gently water these so that they don't all get washed. What happens when you plant seeds like this, if you water it real heavily and it gets full of water, then they tend to float and gravitate to the low areas, and then you get patches of zinnias. They're all real too close together, and then big open, roosters are busy, big open areas that don't have any zinnias at all. So now that we've done this and we've sort of spread it around, we know that the cats and chickens are going to love this. So I'm going to put some wire around this to help prevent the cats from using this as a litter box and the chickens getting in here and scratching. You know, they might even jump in here. They might even jump in here and use it as a dust bath. So we'll save these for the other bed, and I'll show you putting some wire on this. I happen to have some old fence wire. It's kind of a mess, but we're going to put 2 layers of wire. What do you think, the roosters just appreciate the fact that the rain stopped, or what? This particular fence it's about 2 feet, but on the bottom part, or on top or bottom, on one side it's bigger openings, and then on the other side it's smaller openings. So I cut a section out at first that is of the larger openings, and I'm going to lay that in here. We just happen to know, because we've done this in the garden, that when you have a layer of wire laying in the garden, cats and chickens will be detoured because they don't like to get in there and mess with that wire. So I'm just kind of crimp it a little bit. When the zinnias grow up through this, you won't see it at all. So now that is an unattractive place for chickens to scratch around and for cats to get in there and scratch around as well. So one layer of wire in the garden bed, and then we're going to take a second layer as soon as I finish cutting it, and we're going to use it to put around the outside, around the perimeter of the garden bed on the inside of the tank. Its old fence is kind of bent up, so I'm going to try to straighten it out just a little bit. It's hard for me to throw wire like this away because it seems like every time I turn around I'm doing a little project where I need a little wire. So what I'm going to do is now stick this around the perimeter using these tag ends as anchors, sticking it down into the soil. It really would be a good idea to wear gloves when working with wire, because almost every time you're going to get scraped or poked or cut. I'm not the very good example when it comes to wearing gloves. I'll get that down in there. And then I'm going to use these ends here to wrap around to lock that into place.
Well, I can't wait to see what it's going to look like.
What do you think, Mamakirbs? After 7 weeks, how do you like your zinnia bed?
I am so excited.
Turned out pretty.
They're so pretty I don't want to cut them. I'm just admiring them.
Well, they look nice out here. Now, when we planted this, it was up against the fence. The fence has moved out, so they're kind of out in the middle of the space. But it filled in really nicely. Both beds filled in nicely. And the chickens, good timing. The chickens and cats have stayed out of it because of the wire we put up. Except now, of course, when we're doing video. That's not yours. That's not yours. Come on. Yeah. So as far as planting goes, I would say don't be afraid about if you don't know the exact proper way to do it. Just get some seeds, get out there, find a container, find a spot in the yard or a garden, and get the job done. The garden itself, nature itself, will teach you if you just do it enough times. What do you think? Huh? You like the zinnias? Here in the Daddykirbs garden, we believe that everyone has a story and every story counts. I believe your story counts because you count. Thanks for being a part of our story through this video today and letting us be a part of yours. We'll talk to you soon.